You're in the self-checkout line with a bag of groceries that's somehow lighter than it used to be, and your phone is already open, not to text someone, but to check your balance again. Not because you're worried about the groceries, because you're waiting for the next hit. And then it happens, like a little notification avalanche. Your car insurance went up. No reason, just up. An email from your kid's school about a totally optional field trip with a deadline that feels like a threat. Your landlord's renewal offer in that cheerful corporate tone that basically says, pay more or move. This is what normal looks like in 2026. Not yachts, not private jets, not bottle service. Normal is a group chat about which streaming service to cancel while you wait for the pharmacy to text you back about what your insurance decided to cover this week. And here's the part that should make you mad. None of this feels like you're buying things. It feels like you're patching holes constantly. Like adulthood is just an endless series of small emergencies wearing a name tag that says responsibility. So I'm going to walk you through three forces that quietly drain normal people in 2026. Force one, the friction economy. When time gets taxed, money follows. Force two, the non-negotiables. Baseline bills and compliance costs you can't opt out of even when you're disciplined. Force three, the shame tax. The trap where you think you're the problem, so you stop looking and the system charges you more. Sound familiar? And before you roll your eyes and go, okay, cool, another video telling me to stop buying coffee, relax. This isn't that. This is about why being responsible doesn't feel rewarding anymore and why normal is quietly becoming a luxury tier. Also, quick open loop, because I'm not here to just diagnose you into despair. In literally 5 minutes, you can set up one simple account that stops the month from jump scaring you. It won't fix everything overnight, but it will change how your body feels when your phone lights up. I'll show you exactly how in a bit. Read that again. First, you need to see the forces clearly, because you're not irresponsible, you're outnumbered. I'm Ben. I collect the fees nobody warns you about, and then I build systems so you stop paying them. Because you're not failing, you're average. And in 2026, average isn't stable. Average is one weird week away from damage control. So let's start with force one, the one that makes normal feel like you're constantly behind even when you're not doing anything wrong. And this is where it gets personal. It starts in the most normal place possible, your calendar. Not the vacation part, the life maintenance part. Dentistry schedule, oil change you already pushed twice, parent-teacher conference in the middle of a workday. And you're not thinking, I'm so busy. You're thinking, which one of these turns into a bigger problem if I ignore it one more week? Then your phone does that thing where it becomes a slot machine for bad news. A push notification from your bank because your balance dipped under some invisible line. A message from your doctor's office, your claim is being reviewed, which is adult code for we might bill you later. A reminder you set yourself, cancel trial, because you're now the manager of a small portfolio of subscriptions you never meant to own. And none of that is luxury. None of that is treat yourself. That's just you trying to keep the machine from making a noise. Second scenario, you're at work and a friend texts, can you spot me? I'll send it back Friday. It's not even a big amount, and you freeze. Not because you don't love your friend, not because you're stingy, but because you don't know what's scheduled to hit your account between now and Friday. Because your money isn't money anymore. It's a timing puzzle. Third scenario, you finally do the responsible thing and try to shop for the cheaper option. You open the insurance app. Too many tabs. You try to change your plan. It asks you questions written like a law exam. You call. You get hold music. Then a polite human reading a script that translates to, we can't tell you what it'll cost until after it happens. So you do what every normal person does in 2026. You leave it. You pay the premium for not having the time to fight it. That's the reality. Normal isn't a lifestyle anymore. It's a full-time administrative job, on top of your actual job. Here's the insight that makes this click. The biggest cost of being normal in 2026 isn't the thing you bought. That's not a typo. It's the friction you paid to avoid. Delivery fees because you can't leave work. The quick replacement because fixing it takes a weekend you don't have. Auto-renew because canceling requires a password you set 3 phones ago. That's not you being careless. That's you being overloaded. And that's not a bug. That's a feature.
Because when life gets dense enough, you stop optimizing for price and start optimizing for survival. You're not choosing the best deal, you're choosing the option with the least resistance. Read that again. That's force one, the friction economy. When time becomes scarce, everything gets more expensive, even if your habits didn't change. So what do you do when convenience isn't a treat anymore? It's the only way your week survives. Hold that thought, because force two is where the system stops hinting and starts demanding. And if you hate this setup as much as I do, you'll want the next part. Force two, the non-negotiables. These are the costs you can't negotiate, can't delay without consequences, and can't budget hack your way out of with a cute spreadsheet. And you can see them in the most boring place possible. Your inbox. Not spam, the real stuff. Your health plan updating benefits. Your apartment complex switching payment processors. Your utility autopay didn't go through, so now you have to re-enter the same card you've been using forever. Nothing dramatic, just 1,000 tiny tasks that all carry a threat. Handle me or I get worse. And the system knows you're busy, so it packages normal like a toll road. There's the slow lane, paperwork, phone calls, waiting rooms, appeals, hold music, forms that ask for information they already have. And then there's the fast lane, tap to pay, instant reschedule, priority support, same-day delivery, premium access, add-on protection. It's not marketed as luxury, it's marketed as relief. Mini hook, but that's not even the expensive part. The expensive part is what non-negotiables do to your brain. Because once baseline life becomes complicated enough, your entire financial life stops being about choices and starts being about compliance. You stop asking, what's the best option? And you start asking, what's the option that won't blow up my week? So you keep the more expensive plan because switching risks a coverage gap. You keep the subscription because canceling turns into a scavenger hunt. You pick the faster appointment because the slow one costs you a workday you can't spare. You accept the processing fee because fighting it means calling someone who will transfer you 3 times. That shift sounds small, it's not, because it creates a new category of expense, costs that don't feel like spending, they feel like avoiding punishment. Late fees, reinstatement fees, rush shipping because the first shipment got delayed. The replacement part you buy twice because the cheaper one didn't work and now you're out of time. It's not impulse buying, it's damage control. And here's the part that makes 2026 feel uniquely brutal: the timing mismatch. Most people don't get paid the way bills hit. Your income arrives in clean chunks. Your expenses show up like mosquitoes, random, frequent, and always when you're trying to relax. So even if you're doing fine on paper, you feel broke in your body because your brain is constantly scanning for the next hit. That's why normal feels unstable. It's not that you can't afford your life, it's that your life won't hold still long enough for you to afford it calmly. Checkpoint. Force 1 was the friction economy. Force 2 is the non-negotiables. Together, they create the same outcome. Planning dies. And once planning dies, the month starts charging interest in ways nobody calls interest. Here's what that looks like, for real. When planning dies, your life gets smaller, not in some dramatic, I can't buy a yacht way, in the boring, humiliating way. You stop saying yes to things before you even ask what they cost. You stop opening invites. You stop checking flights. You stop browsing apartments just to see. Because every new option is also a new risk, a new thing that could land on the wrong day. And you can feel it in your body. You're standing in your kitchen, one hand on the fridge door, staring at leftovers like they're a strategy. Because you're not deciding what to eat, you're deciding what kind of week you're allowed to have. Then the non-negotiables do what they always do. They show up in clusters. It's the week your kid gets sick, so you're juggling work messages with a thermometer. It's the week your car makes a sound you can't unhear. It's the week your apartment sends a routine inspection notice that turns into "we need access," which turns into "that's on you." None of it is optional, and none of it waits until payday. That's the punchline. So you do the 2026 version of being responsible. You put it on a card for now, you pick the fastest fix, you pay for the thing that reduces uncertainty. And you tell yourself you'll clean it up next month. Brutal honesty. If your plan is, I'll deal with it next month, that's not a plan. That's a subscription to panic because next month is already booked. That's the trap. And the expensive part isn't the charge. It's what the charge does to your behavior afterward. Because now you're not making choices based on what you want. You're making choices based on what you can't afford to have go wrong. You start living like a risk manager. You keep extra groceries just in case. You don't drive as far. You don't take the day off. You don't switch jobs even though you hate yours because a gap in insurance feels like jumping out of a plane and building the parachute on the way down. Let's put one clean number on it just to make it real. If avoiding blowups costs you an extra $300 a month in little fees, upgrades, faster fixes, and fine, I'll just pay it, that's $3,600 a year. That's not a budgeting error. That's a whole life category. That's the trip you don't take, the emergency fund that never becomes real, the breathing room you keep promising yourself you'll build once things calm down. Let that sink in. Now, contrast two people. Person A keeps reacting. They're not dumb, they're tired. Every month is whack-a-mole, so they pay for relief and call it normal. Person B isn't richer. They just protect their money from chaos. They don't eliminate bills, they eliminate surprise. And that one difference changes everything. Checkpoint. We've seen Force 1 and Force 2. Now I'm going to give you the move that breaks their momentum before we unpack Force 3, because you deserve a lever, not a lecture. Step 1 is boring on purpose. Create a second checking account that is not for saving. It's for absorbing chaos. Call it shock absorber or leave me alone, I don't care. The name matters because it stops you from stealing from it when you're bored on a Tuesday. Then pick a starter number that's small enough to be real and big enough to matter. Start with $500, not because it solves your life, because it changes your posture. It turns uh-oh into annoying. That's a different nervous system. Now, here's the move that actually makes it work. You stop paying chaos out of your main account. Every time one of those mosquito expenses shows up, pharmacy, school deadline, random copay, the thing that's not a full emergency but still ruins your mood, you pay it from the shock absorber, and once a week, you refill it like you're topping off a gas tank. The key is cadence, not motivation, because if you only refill it when you have extra, it'll never happen. Normal in 2026 never has extra, it has leftovers. So make it automatic. Every payday, a small transfer, even $25, even $40, because now you're buying something you've never been able to buy consistently, predictability. And once you hit that first $500, you don't celebrate by spending it, you celebrate by raising the floor. Next milestone is 1 month of mosquito money, not rent, not your whole life, just the constant little hits that make you feel broke even when you're not. This is the stuff that shows up uninvited. The first month is the hardest because you're doing it while the month is still attacking you. But once you get even a small buffer, something flips. You stop paying for urgency. You stop choosing the fast lane because you're scared of the slow lane. You can wait. You can compare. You can push back. That's where the real savings live. And yeah, it takes effort. You'll have to say no to a few convenience traps on purpose. But the difference usually comes down to one factor: whether you're building a system that protects future you or just hoping future you figures it out. That's not a typo. Because once the buffer exists, Force 1 loses leverage, and Force 2 loses its teeth, which brings us to Force 3, the one that finishes the job. Force 3, the shame tax. This is the part nobody wants to admit because it feels personal, but it's not personal. It's profitable. Here's the trap. When you're constantly reacting, you start telling yourself a story. I'm just bad with money. I'm irresponsible. I can't stick to anything. I need more discipline. And the moment you believe that story, you stop looking closely, because looking closely feels like proof that you're failing. So you avoid your statements. You don't open the email. You leave the subscription running because canceling means confronting the fact you forgot. You don't negotiate the bill because you assume you won't win anyway. You don't switch the plan because you're scared you'll mess it up. Sound familiar? That's not laziness. That's shame management. And shame is expensive. 2 quick scenes. Scene 1. You see a charge you don't recognize. It's small enough to ignore and annoying enough to spike your heart rate. You tell yourself you'll handle it later. Later becomes next month.
Next month becomes whatever, it's not worth the hassle. Read that again. It's not worth the hassle is how the system gets paid. Scene 2. You get a notice, some portal, some policy, some "we've updated our terms." You skim it like it's a pop quiz. You click accept because you're tired. And then weeks later, you get hit with a fee that technically was disclosed. And now you're mad at you. Perfect. Because when you're mad at you, you don't get mad at the model. That's why Force 3 is the final boss. It turns a design problem into a personality flaw. You're not irresponsible, you're outnumbered. And the business model is simple. When you're tired, you pay faster. When you're rushed, you pay more. And when you're ashamed, you stop looking. That's Force 3. Checkpoint. Force 1 taxes your time. Force 2 demands compliance. Force 3 convinces you it's your fault so you don't fight back. That's the trap. And that's why the buffer works. Not because it makes you rich, because it breaks the reflex. The next time the school email hits with the deadline, you don't spiral, you check the shock absorber and you decide like a person, not like a cornered animal. The next time your phone lights up with a payment failed message, you don't freeze, you handle it from the buffer. Then you top it off on payday like brushing your teeth. Boring, automatic, effective. And now, this is the part nobody tells you, your shoulders drop. You stop checking your balance like it's a pulse ox. You stop flinching when your phone lights up. You start opening your banking app with information in mind, not dread. Because now you can tell the difference between three things that used to feel identical: a real emergency, a system-generated nuisance, and a convenience trap wearing a friendly interface. And once you can label it, you can beat it, not by cutting lattes, by building insulation between you and the month. So there you have it. The real cost of being normal in 2026 isn't that you're buying too much stuff. It's that the month keeps charging you for friction, for compliance, and for shame. Most people think the hardest part is earning more. They're wrong. The hardest part is protecting your attention long enough to make one calm decision before the system sells you relief at a markup. You're not broken. The math is broken. Start small, keep it separate. Protect it like it's your ability to think, because it is. Because in 2026, normal isn't a level you reach, it's a treadmill you step off. If you want more systems like this that make the month stop ambushing you, subscribe.